At the family dinner, I was lifting my glass when I heard it. My father's voice cutting through the chatter like a blade. Nobody needs your money or you. The sentence landed heavy, ugly, final. The room didn't even pause. Forks kept moving, someone laughed at the far end of the table, and my sister nodded, lips curving into something almost pleased, as if she'd been holding that thought back for years, just waiting for the right moment to let it breathe. Heat crept up my neck, slow and humiliating, but I didn't let it reach my face. I kept my smile small, polite, practiced. I said nothing. My silence felt sharper than anything they could throw at me, and for the first time, I didn't rush to soften the moment for them. They assumed I'd swallow it the way I always had, but sitting there, surrounded by people who only measured my worth in numbers and favors, I knew something they didn't. Their downfall had already begun. I grew up in that house believing silence was the entry fee for belonging. No one ever spelled it out, but it lived in the spaces between their words, in the sighs, the looks, the way problems were placed gently but firmly into my hands. I learned early that love was conditional and usefulness was currency. If Sarah forgot her homework, I drove it to school. If Dad needed someone to stay with Grandma, my plans disappeared without discussion. When Sarah grew up and her bills multiplied, they somehow found their way to me, too. It was never a demand, it was expectation dressed up as trust. They called me dependable, the responsible one. But reliability turns into servitude when no one ever asks how you're holding up. From the outside, my family looked warm, tight-knit, the kind of loud people call healthy. Holiday photos, matching sweaters, my mother's sweet potato casserole placed at the center of the table like a symbol of unity. People always said we were lucky, but they meant the pretty kind of luck, the kind you can hang on a wall, not the kind that keeps you safe when the doors close. Grandma was the only one who ever looked at me and didn't see a function. I remember her tiny kitchen, the smell of peppermint tea and old books, the way her hands would cover mine as she said, "You don't have to save the whole world, honey." I didn't understand then that she meant my world, my family. After she died, that kitchen became my refuge. I kept the key. I kept the memory of someone who saw me clearly. Back at the dinner table, the same one I'd spent decades setting and clearing and cooking around, I sat among people who had rewritten me in their minds. Not Maya, the project manager, not Maya who paid her own rent and built her own life brick by brick, but Maya the fixer, the one who always shows up, the one who covers the bill and never complains. Dad didn't even look at me when he said it. Mom kept slicing the ham with steady hands. Sarah smirked into her wine. And in that moment, everything clicked into place, clean and final. That house was never mine. Maybe that's why the words hurt without crushing me. It hurt, God, it hurt, but it didn't break me. It clarified, it sharpened the air, it showed me the path forward. I realized something none of them had ever considered. I didn't need them either, not their approval, not their rules, not the seat they believed they could quietly remove. And for the first time in my life, silence didn't feel like surrender, it felt like motion. The dinner continued like nothing had happened. Plates scraped, glasses clinked, someone laughed at a joke I didn't hear. Inside my head, time slowed. I watched them the way you watch strangers on a train, detached, curious, wondering how you ever mistook proximity for connection. Sarah leaned back, swirling her wine. "Mom's right," she said lightly. "You take things too seriously, Maya. No one needs all that you do, not really." She said it like reassurance, like she was lifting a burden from me. What she meant was clearer. You're only useful when we say you are. I looked at her, at the sister's rent I'd paid, whose kids' school clothes I'd bought, whose emergencies always landed in my lap. She never remembered the details, only the expectation. Mom finally glanced up. "You work so much anyway, it's not like you have a family of your own to worry about. We don't want you burning yourself out for nothing." For nothing. That phrase cut deep, dismissing every hour I'd spent building something for myself because it wasn't serving them. Dad muttered, "Let's not make this dramatic. It's just the truth. You take things personally." Polite gaslighting. They were experts. I looked around at the candles, the centerpiece, the empty chair Grandma used to occupy. Her absence felt less like loss now and more like a warning. "Say something," Sarah snapped, annoyed by my quiet. But I didn't trust my voice, not because I was afraid, but because anger like this doesn't want words, it wants action. I folded my napkin neatly and placed it beside my plate. The small movement shifted the room. Mom paused mid-slice. Sarah frowned. I stood calm, steady. "I hear you," I said softly. Dad waved a hand. "Good, then we can move on." And we did. Just not together. That was the moment I left the version of myself they'd designed behind. I didn't slam the door when I left. I didn't shout. I stepped into the cold night, letting the air bite at my cheeks. The porch light flickered behind me, and for a second I caught my reflection in the window. Tired eyes, tight shoulders, someone who'd carried too much for too long. The walk to my car peeled memories away with every step. Groceries, bills, last-minute rescues, praise that always came with a price. By the time I sat down, my hands trembled not with fear, but recognition. At home, the silence hit harder than their voices. I turned on a lamp, the soft light filling my small living room. It had always felt like a temporary pause. That night, it felt claimed. I opened my laptop and clicked a folder I'd avoided for years. Family payments, statements, transfers, receipts. I went through them slowly, patterns revealing themselves without mercy. For years, I thought speaking up would make me cruel. Now I saw silence had made me expendable. The decision arrived quietly. I emailed the lawyer Jen once mentioned, attached everything, and hit send. The reply came sooner than I expected. "I've reviewed what you sent. This isn't just family help, it's a pattern of financial exploitation. If you're ready, we can move forward." Ready? I stared at that word. Then I saw Dad's bored face in my mind, heard Mom say no one needed me, saw Sarah smirking into her wine. I typed back one sentence, "I'm ready." The days that followed were different. I wasn't patching holes in someone else's boat. I was building a case. I met the lawyer in a small office downtown. He listened while I laid everything out, from the first borrowed payment to the night they told me I wasn't needed. He asked questions, dates, amounts, exact phrases from their texts. "You understand," he said once. "Once we file, this stops being private. It becomes a legal matter. They stopped being just family when they treated me like a walking account." I said we documented everything. Late-night transfers, Sarah begged for emergencies, Mom called about times. Dad wrapped my help and words like duty. On paper, it was a straight line of withdrawals and guilt. When the fraud report was submitted, there was no thunderclap, just a confirmation email and a message from my lawyer. They'll open an investigation. Meanwhile, my family noticed the shift. Sarah texted first. "You're acting weird. Is this about dinner? Mom didn't mean it." I didn't answer. Then Mom called. Then Dad. Voicemails stacked up. "We're worried about you. Don't take things so personally. Family talks, you know that." In one message, I heard Sarah in the background complaining that her card kept getting declined. I let it play to the end, then deleted it. 2 weeks later, my lawyer called. "They've opened an investigation," he said. "There's enough to move forward. They'll speak with you again, and with them." "Them," I repeated. "You've been carrying this alone for years," he said. "It's theirs to carry now." The day it happened, the sky was a flat winter gray. My lawyer said I didn't have to be there when the investigators showed up, but I wanted to see the moment they realized I wasn't theirs to use anymore. From the street, my parents' house looked the same. Same wreath, same crack in the step. Through the dining room window, I saw the table set, my family in their usual places. I parked, walked up, knocked once, and let myself in. Mom looked up, startled. "Maya, you didn't say you were coming." I took off my coat, taking in the scene. Dad at the head of the table, Mom at his right, Sarah across from my old chair. Seth leaned back, relaxed. Thought you didn't need me, I said. Mom's eyes narrowed. Don't start. Sarah rolled her eyes. You're seriously still on that? I walked to my seat but didn't sit. I set my bag there instead. Dad cleared his throat. Look, he said, about what was said last time, let's not blow it up. We were just talking. Mom bristled. I was just being honest. That's one word for it, I said. Seth snorted. We said we don't need your money. Take the hint. I looked from him to Sarah. Funny, I said quietly. Some people are very interested in where my money went. Sarah's laugh cut off. What's that supposed to mean? Before I answered, there was a sharp knock at the front door. 3 hard, measured hits that rattled the frame. The sound froze the room. Dad frowned. Who is that? You should get that, I said. He pushed his chair back and went to the door. He opened it and stopped. Good evening, sir, a man said. Financial Crimes Unit. We're looking for Sarah Miller and Seth Miller and Thomas and Elaine Carver. Silence dropped over the house. Mom stood up. There has to be some mistake, she said. 2 investigators stepped inside, badges visible. One held a tablet, the other a folder I recognized from the copies my lawyer had shown me. There's no mistake, the woman said. We're here regarding an investigation into alleged financial fraud and exploitation. We'd like to ask you some questions. Sarah's chair screeched back. Maya, she hissed, what did you do? For the first time in a long time, I didn't shrink. I stayed silent, I said. Then I started doing things you never expected. Seth stepped forward, face red. You called the cops on your own family over a few transfers? The male investigator looked at him. We're talking about years of unauthorized withdrawals and coerced payments. That's not a few transfers. Please sit down, sir. Dad tried to pull himself together. This is a misunderstanding. Any money moved around was family business. Family business doesn't override the law, the woman replied. You'll each have the chance to explain. For now, we need you to remain while we ask some questions. Mom turned to me, eyes wet. Maya, tell them this isn't what it looks like. I met her gaze. You told me nobody needed my money or me, I said quietly. So I stopped giving you both. Her mouth opened, closed. We were upset. We didn't mean. You meant it enough to say it, I cut in. The words didn't come out as a shout. They came out level, held up by every drained account. Seth lurched forward. You're going to let them ruin our lives? I didn't ruin anything, I said. I just stopped hiding what you did. The investigators began. Dates, amounts, authorizations. Sarah stumbled, looking at Mom, at Dad. Seth scoffed once, then fell silent when specific totals were read. Every favor shrank under the weight of the numbers. I didn't stay for the whole thing. I had no interest in watching them scramble. As I picked up my bag, Dad snapped, If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back. For years, that sentence had been a loaded gun pointed at my chest. This time, it just sounded tired. I looked at him, at the man who taught me family was everything, as long as I kept paying for it. I left a long time ago, I said. You're just noticing now. Then I stepped outside, closing the door softly behind me, leaving the investigators and my family on the other side with the only thing that had ever really belonged to them, the consequences. I drove away without looking back, but the fallout found its way to me anyway. 3 days later, Sarah's number flashed across my screen over and over until it finally stopped. Then came a text from an unknown number. Seth. They froze my accounts. I might get suspended. Fix this. I didn't reply. A week after that, Mom sent a long email layered with guilt and half apologies. We didn't understand how serious this was, she wrote. Your father is devastated. Please talk to us. The same man who told me nobody needed my money, or me, was now begging for a conversation. Funny how quickly roles reverse when the money stops. Dad never reached out directly, but Jen did. 2 sentences. They're panicking. You did the right thing. Kelly sent a longer message, thanking me for exposing what she'd seen signs of for years. You were brave enough for all of us, she wrote. And somewhere between their unraveling and my quiet days alone, something shifted. I found a small apartment 2 states away, close to work, close to peace. No tense dinners, no sudden emergencies, no guilt disguised as love. For the first time in my life, the silence around me didn't feel like absence. It felt like freedom.
Some nights I sit by my window with the lamp on low, watching the city move without me. I think about that dinner, the words meant to break me and how they ended up setting me free instead. I used to believe family loyalty meant endurance, absorbing every blow, filling every gap, paying every debt. But love without respect isn't loyalty, it's captivity. Walking away wasn't punishment, it was clarity. And the same silence they once mocked became the boundary that saved me. If any part of my story feels familiar, if you've ever been used, dismissed, or told you were too sensitive, you aren't alone. You deserve reciprocity, not extraction. You deserve to be seen, not spent. Share your experience in the comments. I read all of them. And if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe so you won't miss what comes next.